What's going on? This is Devin. Thank you for tuning in to the live stream of What's Your Anchor? Yeah. So this is my very first live stream ever. So I'm really just, learning. So, bear with me. But not further, I really thank you for like just tuning in. It's something I've been thinking about for a while. But you know how that goes. You say you're gonna do something and before you know it, you never do. But I think all in all, it kind of worked out this way for a reason, right? So first, I'm just going to start by explaining like what I mean by what's your anchor, and what I want people to get from this, right? So for me, when I think about someone, really living life in purpose, right, and on their terms, doing the thing that they were put here to do, right, living your best life, you could say, right. When I think about what it takes to get that, I think of knowing what your anchor is, right? And so for me, I think over the course of, years between the time I was 22 to maybe about 3 to 4 years ago, I really identified what my purpose was, right? And as I thought about it, there were three things that I felt like had anchored me to the place of being able to identify my anchor, right? And then not only identify it, but do what I needed to bring it to life. I think very often when we think of what it means to live your purpose or whatnot, we kind of think it's lofty, and you gotta have, you gotta know certain kinds of people to live in purpose, or you gotta have, something, a certain kind of money or access, or it just kind of has to be a miracle, right? It has to just land in your lap, like, oh wow, I ended up living my best life. But I learned that there was like kind of like a process or a way. So the three things that I identified was first, knowing and being mindful of your identity, right? And to kind of even establish what your identity is, I kind of sifted through, journals I've written over the years and identified three main parts of the identity, right? It's your values, your habits, and your personal mission. When I looked at those really made up the core of like the kind of person I wanted to become. Um, and the habits and things, those were the techniques that allow me to bring it to manifest to reality. So yeah, being anchored is just knowing your identity and being mindful of that. But then the vision, right? The Bible says, write your vision and make it plain. And one thing I can say I certainly did, especially when I was incarcerated, was I wrote my vision. I wrote about what I wanted my life to be like after I was released. I wrote about that, using my wildest imagination also, right? I think that's the beauty of rock bottom is, when you feel like you can't go anywhere else, you know, anything seems like shooting for the stars, right? So why not go as far as your imagination and your mind will let you? So, I took a lot of time to think about what my vision was and refining that as it became more clear to me, right? So as I, again became, mindful of my identity, between that mission, values, and habits, then became mindful of my vision, right? Making it very clear and specific, refining it over time. The third piece were my shipmates, right? And the shipmates are the people that help you get there, because the way we're just designed as humans, right? The way life is set up, we're not meant like we're social, right? And life is designed that we will need other people, right? And no one ever achieves something meaningful and significant for themselves or for the world even, without someone else's help and assistance. And what your shipmates do is they give you, they extend your capacity, right? So they help you with the things that you can't do on your own, but they also keep you accountable, right? Because I'm the first to admit I'm a big procrastinator, and I often need people to keep me accountable to, to do what I know I need to do, but we either get lazy or afraid or whatever, right? And so that's what the shipmates do. So, after kind of realizing this a few years ago, looking through all my journals and whatnot, it became like my mantra, right? How I live my life. I would ask myself, what's my anchor, right? And I, make sure to remember those three things. And it kept me, balanced and grounded and aligned, to keep going with what I was aiming for, right? What I envisioned as my purpose. And so as that became my mantra, I thought about, how can I utilize what I have realized for myself to help maybe other people who may, also be able to get something valuable from it. Because I'm always surprised by folks who, say that they were helped by me sharing about my experiences, right? And I think that's because we all have a story, right? Everyone has a story. Everyone has aspirations, right? Everyone has trials, right? And setbacks. And I think when we hear others talk about theirs, it 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 encourages us, right? Because again, with us being social, it lets us know that we're not going through this experience right alone, this human experience of ups and downs, highs and lows, right? So as I thought about that, I found my anchor, by looking back on my situation, my story, my life, having written them. And I think that's something we all can do, right? I've come to realize that when we all just kind of take a moment and reflect, and quiet things in our lives, remove distractions. I was just telling our first guest or our guest today how I took Instagram off my phone for the first half of this year, or the first part of this year, and it really helped me, gain clarity and whatnot. But really, as I reflected, to gain insights. And so that's one of the ways we remain anchored, right? We remain mindful of our anchor. So to bring us here today, I figure, in the spirit of really making it, practical for people, right? I figure I'd bring on some of my shipmates, right? People who have helped me remain anchored over the years, and other people who are also living what they would consider a life of purpose, right? To just come on, talk for a little bit, share, some of the things that have anchored them to get to where they are now, and maybe even some of the things that as they are still pursuing right their purpose, how they navigate, right? Because along with this whole concept of being anchored, right, I look at us as all being navigators in life. None of us really know what we're doing, and those of us like me who we hit our 30s now, and we're like, wait a minute, I'm a grown up and I still don't know what I'm doing. None of us know. We're all just navigating life the best we can, right? And so I say the difference between people who end up finding their purpose versus those who don't, right? Finding and living in their purpose, is being anchored. And so again, we're all navigators. So the folks who actually reach their purpose, I've called them anchored navigators, right? Those of us who are anchored. And so you probably are watching this now from the Facebook group, but if you haven't, I made a Facebook group called Anchored Navigators. Hold on, I'm gonna post this down here so you can see. But yeah, it's really just a group. I want to build community with other people who feel like they're anchored, right? Or maybe people who feel like they're not anchored, you know what I mean? And want to, meet people who can, share how they've been anchored and, be inspired, be motivated, or what have you. You know what I mean? And so it's an acronym. I don't know if you can see in this logo up here, ANCRD, right? Because we're anchored navigators, creating and reaching our destinies. So yeah, that's what we're here for today. That's what the Facebook is group for. So if you have not yet done so, be sure to join that Facebook group. Maybe not now because I think it'll take you off the live, but whatever the case, join the Facebook group when you can, so we can, You can stay tuned for all of our What's Your Anchor interviews and get some other content that I'm working on to share. Cool. All right, give me a second. I'm still trying to navigate everything, but let's see. Got a text. Okay. But cool. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and bring up our first guest. So this first person, he's wow. So one of my good friends, from high school, dating back to high school. Shout out Bull City, Jordan, Jordan High School. But he's someone I definitely consider one of my one of my shipmates, rather, helping me stay anchored. And he's now doing some pretty amazing things that I'll let him talk about, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my homeboy Chad. Give me 1 second. Chad, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Not much. So if you will, just briefly introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
For sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. Being that we are close friends, clearly, I've seen the journey and proud of you of, as to where you're going and, all that's to come from the business. So congrats on that. But just a little about myself. I guess as far as 9 to 5, I work as a project manager, working in development and construction, kind of overseeing projects that are designed to enhance my company's footprint, for lack of better words. As far as my 5 to 9, I'm the founder of Let's Get Right, which is essentially a brand that's designed to promote self-betterment, and with a strong focus on physical, mental, and financial. As Devin posted the link to our apparel shop. But yeah, www.lgright.com. So just a little intro about myself and the brand. So.
All right, cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good.
All right, bet. So cool, appreciate that. So I don't really know where to start. I kind of made some notes, but yeah, I guess to start a little bit, let's talk about your anchor, right? So if I was thinking, I probably should have made some visuals for those. But the 3 things of the anchor, right, is identity, right, vision, and then your shipmates. Okay. So the first part, identity, right? The biggest piece of the identity, right, is your mission. So I've come to terms with the fact that I'm a nerd. But I remember freshman year of college, I made a mission statement for myself. And I'll never forget, I had the dictionary.com app, word of the day, right? And maybe it was a sophomore then, but the word of the day app, and the word was bellwether, which is like a influential leader in a particular field and what have you. And I remember that I decided that my mission for myself was to be a bellwether in education. I was in school to be a teacher at the time, you know what I'm saying? So I just, that's what I wrote it out as my personal mission statement. And as I look back on my journey, right, to kind of realize how that impacted, me being anchored and living life of purpose, right? So I've alluded, I mentioned it, but I ended up spending some time in prison, in college, and at that point, again, I was in school to be a teacher, and most people, it's a felony, right? And so I was in prison for a felony. So at that point, it was looking like I couldn't teach, right? Especially in public schools with the felony, at least for some time. So that's how I ended up kind of switching my career path initially. But all that to say, right, I remember feeling so bad that I wouldn't be able to be a teacher anymore. But having set my mission right around the kind of person I wanted to be, it kept me focused on that goal, to where despite that hurdle, I ended up still being able to become a teacher, right? Now I'm an instructor at a community college, teaching workforce development. And, at the time, right? At the time, I, again, was, in prison and just didn't really know what I was going to do. Didn't know, I felt like that was my purpose, right? But then I also felt like life situations kind of made it so that I wouldn't be able to achieve that, right? Having it solidified in like a mission that I could reflect on and continue to inspire me, it allowed me to find, be persistent rather with finding those avenues to still, achieve that part of my life mission, right? So with that said, have you at all thought about, what your personal mission is, or what have you? And if so, like, what is that, and how'd you like go about that?
Well, the funny thing is, and you bring me on and with the brands, because I think like my brand is kind of a reflection of that. Like the whole point of let's get right is is to strive towards that, right? To strive towards being my best self, and like that's essentially the purpose or motto I live by. Let's get right, essentially, and because it can apply to anything, whether I'm talking about getting in shape, or if I'm talking about addressing mental health, if I'm talking about improving financial situation, financial literacy, etc. Like the whole point of let's get right is it applies to all the above. So it's like constantly like anything I do, that's kind of like the tone I set, because the whole point is being my best self, and in the same fashion, encouraging others to do the same. I think when you were doing your intro, you were talking about how like we're all going through things, we're all like struggling. So I think nowadays, especially with our generation, I think it's so easy to see people who look like they have it all together, and we kind of compare ourselves to that. So I think naturally, it's natural to do that. So the whole point of this brand is kind of pointing out that, okay, we're all trying to get to a certain point, but no one, everyone goes through something. No one has it perfect. No one, has their life made. Even if you look at the richest person in the world, everyone has their own struggle. So, I'm trying to encourage, kind of building a community around improving together, so to speak. So, the motto, the logo, the brand, applies to, my life essentially as my mission. So.
True. Yeah, nah, that makes sense. I'm gonna look like this way. It's not at the camera, but because like my screen's that way, so I hope it's not a distraction. But
Right.
anyway, nah, that makes sense. So when did you? I don't know if you shared, but like when did you like? I guess decide like. Well, first of all, okay, let's back up a little bit, right? I actually meant to share this before.
Okay.
So this is like way off topic right now. We'll just put a pin here. Because again, disclaimer, my first live, and still a little nervous and whatnot. But so yeah, but the intro song, yeah, I don't know if y'all got on time to see. There was an intro song that I wrote and made or whatever. But one of the verses, right? One of the lines is remember the time you went for the goal, running the road, feet cut to your soul. And that was actually I was telling Chad that line was from a time in high school. We were it was like the Olympics, right? We're
Yeah.
doing like an Olympics thing, and I was running on the concrete barefoot or something like that. You said it was your first memory of me, right?
So that's actually my first memory of you in high school, because all I remember was this dude was running with just his socks on the track. I was like, all I saw your socks flopping. I'm like, yo, it's dumb. Like, bro, you trying to raise? You probably lost too, so that made it even worse.
Look, hey, it's funny because my foot was like literally split in half. Like it was bleeding. It was bad. But actually, I think it was tied for first.
Okay.
It was tied for first. It was me.
Y'all got
I think Daryl Kent's got first. I think I got like second, maybe, and I think Affleck maybe got third. I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to get receipts later on.
So right, yeah, but nah, that I just wanted to bring that up because like, yeah, you know, it's funny like how even at the time I was like writing that I wasn't expecting to remember or something like that. But nonetheless, cool. So you mentioned, like, I guess the mission of Let's Get Right.
Right.
You mentioned what's it about? But I guess because the broad idea is about purpose, right? So what would you say your purpose is, I guess? Yeah, maybe that's the better question. What would you say is your purpose? And then how does Let's Get Right play into that? Because I feel like a lot of, you can start a business. Like a lot of people start businesses and don't necessarily associate it with like part of their purpose, right?
Sure.
It's like a stream of income, rather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I guess what's your purpose and where does Let's Get Right into that? Yeah.
Well, I think the funny thing is I think I'm still trying to figure it out, like what my purpose is at this moment or what it's supposed to be. I think right now, Let's Get Right is helping me get there. You know, I think that's like the path to determining that or figuring that out. But in this moment, I think I still am figuring out my purpose. Like, you know, like, I mean, Let's Get Right could die tomorrow, you know, and, you know, great, you know, I'm glad I did it, but I'm still unsure of like what that's meant to be, who I'm meant to be. Like even looking at my career, I went from similar to you, wanted to be a teacher, college, and then that changed to being a college advisor in a high school, which is still kind of similar. Then I went to, I thought, you know, I threw parties in college. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna work in events. Moved to DC for grad school to get a master's degree in tourism administration with a concentration in events. I'm like, okay, cool. Got a job after grad school, and now I'm working in essentially development / construction, you know? And so I'm just like, I'm still trying to figure it out because, you know, I told God what I wanted to do, and I guess he just laughed and said, nah, we got something else planned. And even with Let's Get Right has, you know, for me, the brand has been around since like 2013, 2014.
You know what's funny?
What?
I remember when you had got a mug, I think, like a coffee mug. Yeah. Let's Get Right on it. Yeah. And I was like, what does it mean? He's like, I don't know.
Bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like at one point, Let's Get Right was for turning up. I'm like, yo, we about to get right. Let's get right. You know what I mean? Like, you know, take shots, you know, turn up. And my friends at the time I was living in Charlotte, and like my friends were like egging me on, like, oh, let's get right. And that was the motto, you know, for turning up. And I think eventually, you know, at first I associated it with like, you know, turning up, but then it kind of turned into, okay, you know, I'm trying to eat right. Let's get right. Oh, I'm trying to get right physically. Started running. I ran my first 5K. Let's get right. And, you know, it kind of built up from there. And I think one of my friends, he told me, he's like, yo, you need to put that on a shirt or something, you know, because it just had a nice ring to it. I was like, he's right. And, you know, fast forward to now when I finally got the brand started. But even with that, it took me some like what, 5-6 years to even get the brand out there.
Yeah, because I forgot about it for a while. Yeah,
I forgot too. You know what I mean? We all forgot. Over time, like I even had a logo made at one point. You know, like in 2016, did nothing. You know,
that's before you moved to DC. Yeah,
exactly. And again, that goes back to like trying to figure out the purpose behind that, and for myself. So, so for me to like truthfully answer your question, I don't know, because, you know, I could tell you what I think is my purpose, but then, you know, God might laugh at that too, and then tell me I got something planned for you. And so it's I'm kind of just like taking what I have motivation to do now and put it into play, and not being afraid to, you know, start the Let's Get Right brand, not being afraid to change careers if I'm called to do so, and it makes sense. And so I, you know, having that open-mindedness and kind of sticking to the brand of Let's Get Right in the ways I'm trying to will help me get to that purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So. Yeah. Nah, that makes sense. And like, believe it or not, I think that's one of that like taking those little steps like at a time, right? Before you even know. Because what I struggle with, I'm kind of a perfectionist. You know what I mean? Sometimes to the point of OCD. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so if I can't really predict or have the full picture of what I want it to be for the next couple steps out, I'll stall.
Right.
I've been doing that for a while, but sometimes, it's just like you said, making that first piece of content, that first live, that whatever, and then seeing how it morphs from there. And I'm becoming more comfortable now with doing that than I've ever been. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing.
So
I think the hardest part is just trying. Whatever you have a business, trying to go for another job, or you trying to start working out, you never have. You want to start therapy, all it takes is that first step, and then you go from there, and you don't even know what's going to come from that, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of times, like, fear or doubt may stop us, which is probably why the brand took a while to start. But when I finally put it out there, it was like almost a sense of relief, in the sense of like, oh, I actually did this. I think when I launched the business, I launched it on Instagram. I launched it, and I didn't check the app first of the day. I think I like launched at like noon, and I didn't check my phone or Instagram till later on. I'm like, man, what people don't mess with it, or people don't rock with it. But lo and behold, next like, I see people supporting me and that sort of thing, and it feels good, because you're like, okay, friends supporting, maybe someone sees some purpose behind it or meaning behind it. So, you're hoping that you reach one person, and then when you see people supporting the brand or rocking your gear, like, okay, like, it makes sense. Even when I was like posting on my social media page, if I was posting a picture, I would ask them, oh, hey, like, what does Let's Get Right mean to you? And when I don't get responses, I'm like, oh, okay, smooth. Like, you said it better than me. You know what I mean? So, like, taking that first step is definitely the hardest part, but I think we should all aim to like take those steps, because again, you don't know how it might serve your purpose in the long run, or how it might play out, so, or you might touch.
So, all right, since we're talking like about that in the business, so one of the things I'm trying to do more, well, but so like what I'm trying to be more intentional about, right? Because here's the thing, like, I think because so much of our life is routine, right?
Sure.
Like how we check and engage social media, work. Even if we go to work, we might have the same few places we eat. And when we cook at home, we might have the same kind of rotation of things we eat. Like we get stuck in routines very easily.
All right.
And so sometimes it can be hard to be intentional about things. So I would say perfect. So it sounds like hearing you talk, there was a change from like in Leslie, right? Which I'm assuming was in you, right? From like the whole turn up to like being more about like the empowerment thing.
For sure.
Did you so because for me, what I'm learning, there are habits I need to be a good entrepreneur, right? That were hard for me to build, and some habits I needed to drop. So I would say, what were some of those for you, like habits you needed to add to your routine, or habits you needed to take from your routine?
All right. Man, a bunch of things. And honestly, I think I'm still at a point where there's probably some habits I could drop or incorporate into my life. One thing for me was reading more. Naturally, I don't think growing up I was ever the biggest reader. Even in school, I would find a way to like, kind of half read books for school, or whatever, just to like read enough to where I could answer a question or write an essay, but never the full book. So for me, reading was a huge thing. And whether it's books about financial literacy or books about mental health, the list goes on, and I try to incorporate that into my life daily, even if it's just a few pages. And even now,
What are you reading now? What are you reading now?
So right now I'm reading this book on the stock market, which we can do. But right now it's kind of talks about like the analytical analysis of reading charts in the stock market, and kind of being able to like sort of predict when a stock will rise or fall. We can get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the book I'm currently reading. And even so, it's so crazy how like one thing I wanted to preach is like the how common imperfection is. Because even the book I'm reading, I probably haven't picked it up in like a week or two, you know? Like, I'll go hard for like, well, I'm reading, not watching any TV. Yeah. But you know, it's hard. Like you fall off on certain habits. Running.
So yeah.
I try to run daily. I know you won't cut me off. Hold on. You know, like even running, I have moments where like last week I ran every day. I think I did a dance class one, you know, on Monday or something like that, whatever. You know, there's times where I'm like, all right, I'm getting to it and I'm running every day. But then other times, you know, I'm not. And so I think for me, it's important to recognize the habits. For me, it's like, as far as what aligns with the brand, especially, is trying to eat right. Like this week, I'm trying to eat no carbs or working out. You know, summer's coming. You know, I got the vaccine, so we outside.
Hey.
And trying to.
Which one you get? Which one you get?
Johnson, one and done.
Oh, one and done. Okay. Yeah, I'm waiting for my second one.
So you know, it's a relief but you know, trying to incorporate those things into my life that I know are good for me and help keep me balanced. But at the same time, realizing I might have days where I fall off, and that's okay. You know, as long as I can find a way to pick myself back up and find a way to motivate myself to get back on it. And one thing I do for myself is I have Post-it notes in my bathroom. I think right now I have a couple of Bible verses. Don't ask what they are, but I have a couple of Bible verses. Actually, no. One is Jeremiah 29, 11, 13. I know, Lord, you know the rest.
What is it? Because everyone may not know. So what is it?
You know, everybody look it up. The homework assignment for today.
You get there.
You know, I try to have reminders in my face to help me kind of keep me on track, even on time I fall down. And even with the brand, like on my IG page, I'll post like pictures of people wearing the gear, or if I'm dropping something new, I'll promote it. But a lot of times I'm posting like quotes to try to get some like, you know, some engagement so people can kind of converse and give different perspectives. But a lot of times, I don't think people realize, like, usually when I'm posting something on the IG page, like a quote, that's what I'm telling myself. You know, it's not even on me like trying to like preach to anybody like I know best, or like, you know, I know, you know, what you should think. It's more so, no, I'm trying to tell myself this, you know, and I'm trying to incorporate that into my life and incorporate into my mindset. Like, I think the most recent one I posted was everyone's energy is not for you, you know, and that's something that I'm trying to understand more and trying to come to terms with, you know, and, you know, so a lot of times I'm posting that content to tell myself, you know, and I'm hoping that, okay, well, if I'm feeling this, maybe there's at least one or two other people who are feeling the same way. And, you know, this can be the sign that they might have needed for whatever they're going through. You know, like, people don't understand, like, we are literally all sometimes going through the same type of thing, you know, and we don't know how much like just sharing that might motivate someone, you know, because like, I think for us is like you said, we're social. And I think naturally, like, we want to, if we see other people doing well, we're like, oh, I got to make sure like I'm doing well, or that I have myself together, or at least make it look like it. Right. But if we kind of create a community where it's like, you know, like you're saying, what's your anchor? If you strive to kind of like, in a sense, just be real, you know what I mean? Like, some people go through things, and like, I've heard there's times where I've had friends literally all through the same thing, but like, they'll tell me because we're friends, but like they're in their own bubble. And they don't realize, dang, like, y'all are literally going through the same thing, but don't even know it. You know, in your eyes, oh, I'm the only one going through this. You know what I mean? But you know, I'm just ranting now.
Well, and that's the power of like this whole idea of shipmates too.
Right.
And like you speak of the Bible verse. One of my favorite, actually. Well, one of the ones I think is most practical, I found most practical, right? But the one just helping you build community, because like you said, a lot of times people you're close to are going through some of the same things.
For
It may
sure.
not be the exact same thing, but you can relate to it.
Exactly.
But you just don't know. And I think that's kind of more of a culture thing too, now that we don't share as much. But the Bible verse is I don't know, I can't see where it's at in the Bible, but it is like confess your sins with one another and pray for one another, so that you may be healed, I think. But the thing is, we don't like, especially like we don't like to share when we're like you said, down, or any of the things we struggle with.
But look,
And
but we'll share when we make it though. We'll be like, oh
yeah,
no,
yeah,
good job, and now
yeah,
we'll tell you when we make it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because social media makes it so easy to do that, right? It's like you can just pick what you want to share, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Nah, that's real. But even what you said too, though, about when you post for your page, you were saying how you post things that you need, right?
Right.
But what I like about that is it also keeps your content like authentic to you.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And I don't post a whole lot of content on social media as of now, but I think that's like people always relate more to things that are real and authentic,
For sure.
so to speak. You know what I mean? That come from a place. Right. So if it moves you, then it will be more moving to others, So now that was cool.
Sure.
But what I was trying to cut you off and say, but not. What I was going to say was like the whole shipmates, right? Because like you said, you'll be good for a while and then like you fall off, sometimes. But that's what like the community and the people are for, right? They keep you accountable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I know for me, like it's I need to do better about being intentional about having people in my life to be accountable. You know what I'm saying? To be accountable with me. You know what I mean? Or hold me accountable and, do the same. You know what I mean? So that's, the other part, how they kind of go together, the parts of the anchor, right? Because if, part of that, your anchor is knowing your mission, right? And then you need certain habits to be able to achieve that mission. All right, bet that's where the shipmates come in to make it so that you can stick to that. You know what I mean? Or even like teach you, right?
Right.
Help you out where you can't. So that's the other part. Bet. So we talked a little bit about like mission, all that kind of stuff, shipmates, but I guess the next thing I want to talk about is like vision, right? Because so like I mentioned, I'm teaching a workforce development class right now, right? And a big part of it is just general like motivation, that kind of thing, empowerment. So my question is, before I ask the question, I'm always surprised by people's, I guess I won't say inability, but a lot of people struggle with creating a big, specific, clear vision for themselves.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I mentioned this before. Maybe I didn't mention it. I should have. I'll definitely do it next, the second one. But so I'm the owner of a consulting company called Ship and Anchor, right? And so you can go to this website to look into what Ship and Anchor does. But in my work, I work with a lot of businesses, and I've done that for a while. And what I'm learning is that organizations and even people who are able to depict clearly and articulate very clearly and with specificity what their big like perfect world vision is, often get close, do better, right? They do better because we often meet our expectations, right? And so the higher your expectation is, the higher you're going to shoot and aim. You know what I mean? So a lot of what I do when I work with people on, career, whether it's career planning or just, living like what their purpose is, like being able to even like visualize it and articulate it is a struggle, but it's also very, very important. So, all that said, like what have you thought about, like what your vision is for you, like for your best life or most fulfilled life, whatever?
You mean for myself or the brand or both?
Well, for yourself, and then if you have one for the brand, then yes, definitely yes.
Uh, for myself, that's a good question. Um, I mean, in general, I want to, whenever I leave this earth, I want to look back and be proud of what I've accomplished, and I want to, I would like to think that I've had, have had some type of impact on, people in my life, whether it's people I don't know or friends, family, which I think, I want the brand. But as far as a vision for my own life, I guess broadly speaking, I want to feel fulfilled, and of
Mhm.
course, the goal is to one day have a family and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I would love to see Let's Get Right grow um, to a place where I feel like we're having big impacts on people's lives, in terms
Yeah.
of helping people get to their physical goals, financial
Yeah.
goals, and mental goals, and obviously I'm not an expert in any of those areas, but I think I'm connected enough and know people who can help achieve that for people who believe in the brand.
Yeah.
Um, am I can answer your question, or direct me if I'm not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, well, yeah, you kind of did. You say, you haven't really, I guess, thought about it a lot,
Well, yeah,
not to the point of specificity.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand with purpose, right?
Right.
You know,
Exactly. Well, that's the
if I,
thing. I want to say,
I
like, I think most people don't.
right,
Like, you know what I
right.
mean? Um,
So
just and go
hey
ahead.
man.
All right, go.
Am I the interviewer or the interviewee? Okay, let me
Tag me in sometimes. Hold up.
buzzer, man. But yeah, I was gonna say I think hand in hand, so I think having a purpose kind of lines up with your business. At least that's how I would look at it. So,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
hard, man. Like, actually, let me throw it back at you. What's your vision for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so this is what I would say. I would say, and that's the thing. I think I was surprised that most people haven't thought like that, right? Because I mean, it's hard to say. You have to consider a lot of different things,
Right.
right? And so part of even the work I do that is with people who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, right? I think I talk about when I was in prison a lot because as I look back, I realized prison was it allowed me, it gave me the time to think about those kinds of things, right?
For sure.
It
Yeah.
gave me the time to really think about what is my vision,
Right.
right? What is my mission? And then it gave me the time to figure out what habits I needed to become that person.
Right.
Then to actually develop those habits. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because even now, so I moved back to my grandparents, or I moved back to my hometown where
Right.
my grandparents and all my family is. To get me in the country and kind of have a slower pace to kind of pivot and think about what I wanted a little bit more, and develop those habits I needed to be like the kind of entrepreneur I know I needed to be.
Right.
And what I'm realizing, a lot of those habits that I'm starting it back up again were some of those habits from prison, those like the disciplines, right? Because success is all about discipline.
For
It's
sure. For sure.
all about discipline. So all that to say, right? I think for people who are in prison currently or who are just getting out or maybe about to go, whatever, prison really can be your differentiator because no one else in the world has as much time as you do to really think about what you want out of your life. Get specific about it because being specific gives you a target, right? If you haven't decided where you're going,
All right.
anywhere is somewhere, you know what I'm saying? So you can end up in places you don't want to be. So I think that is how, because everything's about perspective, right? I think that is how people who, for whatever circumstance, find themselves in prison can think of it as their like secret sauce. You know what I'm saying? That's your boot camp to when you get out, you're that person. So to answer the question, what's my vision? I'm kind of like journey there too, right? So I see like Kevin, he commented, so he may or may not still be watching, but like it was Kevin, a guy named Eddie, JB, they really, you know, we all were each other's shipmates, right? We kept each other accountable to even thinking about what our visions were and all that kind of stuff. So for mine, it was I did want to live. I wanted multiple homes, right? I wanted a home that is kind of secluded, kind of by, you know, a natural body of water, right? Where there's what do you call it? Where there's like live animals that you can see. So like maybe like deer, maybe like what do you call them? Like ducks and something like that. You know what I mean?
All right.
That's like my kind of like country scenic. You know what I'm saying? Huh? But then also, go ahead.
I guess sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
but like I guess I'm wondering, like, you know, you saying clear out, I want to live here, this and there, and like I guess I can't envision myself, drawing that out. I can say, like, maybe I want this job, or I want, which I mean, that's still be a vision. But I guess going back to the whole like purpose and like kind of how God has shaped my life, it's like I could have a vision, but God's gonna laugh at it, and I think I can think of my vision in broad terms, but not specific, because I feel like it may not come to fruition, and I don't want to like set that standard or that goal of like I want this and this, and I don't have none of that. I think in general there's things I want to achieve, but I guess how I get there or what it looks like specifically, I'm not sure if I can come up with that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. That makes sense. I guess for me, like, because I think the point of, and I think that's how you also, and this is good, I think that's how you get to live like a full life too, right? Because I think, well, my take is, right, I think, definitely, and especially life has shown me also, right, that you can set a plan or have an idea or whatever, and it can go way left. It likely will, you know what I'm saying? But I think is the benefit in still setting that is that it well, and I just, and like Jim Carrey, like there's a lot of different like people who talk about this, but Jim Carrey talks about it a lot, about how like I guess I don't say like I guess kind of like law of attraction basically, but like I generally feel like the universe, or like, I think the world is conspiring like to help you get what you want, right? And so what I found is by having something like a clear image in mind, it makes you more likely to get it. And then what I found is like either I found out that I didn't really want it, you know what I mean?
All right.
And lost it, or something like that. And but that's also, I feel like, how over the course, like I'm still pretty young, but I've done a number of different things, I feel. And I think, life is going to be, that's the thing too, right? Life, I think now a lot of us are in the mindset that, you're born, you go to work, you go to school, you get a job, have a career, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that. It's pretty linear. But I think the beauty of life, right, is when it's not. And I even worried for a while. I worried because I was like, there's so many different things I want to do with my life. I don't know how to choose. You know what I mean? I don't know which to pursue.
Right. And I agree wholeheartedly. Like there's so many different things, we can do our lives. And again, like even just thinking about like both our lives, we both had this idea of what our life would look like. And, look at us now. I don't think, when we were in high school or going to college, we think we'd be doing this right here, but that was the plan set for our lives, you know what I mean? And, and now we can kind of grow with this and see what happens next. But, that was never my vision,
Yeah.
as far as, let's get right or whatever. Like I said, Let's Right was supposed to be, on a shot glass at one point.
Yeah.
But,
No, that's dope. That's dope. But interesting. I do think so. My whole take on like vision, right? It's a quote from Albert Einstein. Gosh, I need to start writing these things down so I can quote them verbatim because I don't want to, get it wrong, whatever. But the quote basically says, Einstein says he thinks imagination is more important in determining your life or something like that than intellect or something, and that's how that whole concept of my imagination, like how just experimenting with things in my mind helped me to dream big, and then helped me also to be creative.
For sure.
And like how I pursued things, right? And I think again, just in this work of looking at careers and all that kind of stuff, I think that's one of the things that I think will help more people. At least I feel like I found it helped me most, I think, in being able to live what feels like, a really purposeful life. You know what I mean? And I'll say that too, just kind of in the context of even this show, right? I think I may or may not mention, but like even the shirt I have on right now, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Hold on, let me take this off for a second. Bow. So yeah, so the shirt I have right now, it's of the Lady Mary, right? Which is the fishing boat that my dad and uncles and some other crewmen were on, that was lost at sea back in 2009. And that, from that, I remember actually it was in the church at the funeral. There was a guy, I guess the person did the eulogy was saying how he really believed that that situation, that tragedy would turn into something positive, would be used for something positive,
Right.
And for that made my imagination, right, begin to think, about, that, and also just kind of remaining hopeful and holding on to what, are the promises of God. I felt, right, that, he'll give us desires of our hearts, all those things, right? Between believing that, right, and then using my imagination, right, to say, well, how could this be used for something good, right, and positive and beautiful? And like my business, like Ship and Anchor, this show, all that kind of came from that,
Right.
Which is again, it's not what I envisioned. I didn't envision it, but in making a vision, right, and being kind of specific and playing around with ideas, it allowed me to, as I got older and mature, to like refine it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because then that house, whatever, that car, it just kind of shifted, it kind of changed a little bit.
Right.
But
and I
so
think that's
yeah.
the big thing. If you do, like, we set visions, but you're able to redirect or kind of go with, if you say I want this and this, but you're left to a similar path but just different steps. There's nothing wrong with taking those other steps or whatever, because
Exactly.
like you said, I'm sure you didn't think this would be it, but you knew it would be something, and you knew,
Yeah.
how you want
Yeah.
to influence or touch people. So
And
yeah,
that's where your faith is tested too. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
Like, yeah, that's I think that's where your faith is tested. When like you get, you think it's what you want or whatever, and then you get thrown off. It's like, are you still gonna have, faith for that, and whatever. But what I will say, what was I about to say? Ooh. Um oh darn, awkward pause. Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, nah, it's cool. It's cool. So we're coming up on like almost an hour. Oh no, no, no. Okay, so like 5 minutes, right? So what I want to do, Chad, I do want to go to I want to like show Let's Get Right. So
Okay,
people can see like the gear.
sure.
So again, you got Let's Get Right, www.lgright.com. Okay, and I'm about to share my screen so that people can like see what the apparel is.
Sure.
Um, share screen.
Nice hat, by the way.
Oh yeah, hold on. Oh yeah, and it's also hold on before I share screen. You're right. This is a nice hat. Thanks. This is my Let's Get Right hat. Um, but then I'm also okay. Share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, bet. So yeah, so this is Let's Get Right. All right, you go lgright.com. You scroll down. Growth over pride. Pray, eat, invest. Equity.
Yes, sir.
It's cool to see how it's like evolved from the cup, the shot glass.
For sure. First product was a mug.
Yeah, yeah.
Here we are.
Hey, but man, I know doing the same thing, man. I follow in your footsteps because the first thing I made was what's your anchor hats? Remember
So for sure.
that nobody ever saw except for a handful of
It's
people.
it's
So
cool too because like I'll have like people hit me up and ask me like, oh, how do you get started?
a
And
lot
I'm
of this stuff.
kind of hesitant. Like I'm like, no, I'm happy to to share. I think at the end of the day we all gotta eat or if
Yeah,
people have an idea for a brand and I think we should all collaborate. Because
absolutely.
you never know what someone or what someone may have gone through in their process for whatever they're doing and how it could affect what you're doing, your strategy for and they can share. I'm happy to share like my mistake with people when they ask me how the brand got started and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really think, yeah, yeah. I'm with you. You should definitely share our mistakes. So, okay, again, people can find you on Instagram. All your stuff is CJ Manhurts, right?
Yeah, so Instagram personal is CJ Manhertz. Let's Get Right pages underscore LG Right. Then on Facebook, my personal is Chad Manhertz, Manhertz. And then the Let's Get Right page is just Let's Get Right spelled out. Um, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And of course, the
And
website, like you said.
oh yeah, the website
It is.
about let's lgright.com. All right. And then yeah, if you're still on, if you have not yet done so, make sure you go to ANCRD Navigators Facebook group, ANCRD Navigators. Hit the join button. Again, there you'll keep up with more content. You'll be able to get more info and updates on Let's Get Right when they have new apparel. You know what I'm saying? The Let's Get Right website will be in there. So if you want to go click it to, get your stuff, you can do that there. And just meet other people, who are anchor navigators, just, on this journey like everybody else. But just trying to, make sure they know what their anchor is. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, man. I think that's it.
Cool.
Anything else, Chad? We did it. This is yeah,
good stuff.
first one.
First one.
Yeah. I know, man. Wow. All right, cool. Bet. Appreciate it. I'll holler at y'all later.